All right, guys, welcome back to Driving Life, the Motorsports Recap Show. I am Owen Trinkler, your co-host, along with Donovan Degalau. And we get in this weekend to the Coke 600, the Memorial Day weekend races, the Indy 500, where history was made at both events with a four-time winner and a first-time winning team owner. Michael Shank Racing wins the 500, which is so cool to see. But all right, guys, welcome back to Driving Life, the Motorsports Recap Show, brought to you by Franklin Road Apparel with Showtime Motorsports. We're in the studio, Donovan. Huge week, man. This weekend is one of my favorites.
Mine too.
Because I'm a 500 junkie.
Oh, that was such a good race. So good. And the Coke 600 was
the
good
Memorial
for a couple
Day
of reasons. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I missed Monaco. You know, we watched it last weekend.
Yeah.
Just Memorial Day was so weird this year. Falling on the last day of the month, basically second to last day of the month, I guess. No, last day of the month.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But good racing. Good Indy 500. Probably the best I've seen in a decade.
It was so cool. And we'll get into later why it was so cool. But Donovan, go ahead and give us the rundown, I guess. I mean, not a super busy weekend for motorsports, but I guess you can give us some results here, and then we'll dig deep into this weekend.
Yeah. So, well, let's start with the Coke 600. We'll do this backwards, right?
Okay.
All right. So we go Coke 600. Almost had another Hendrick Motorsports 1, 2, 3, 4 finish. Kyle Busch sneaks in there in P3, but Kyle Larson put on a clinic.
Going to do it again right here, 2021.
Kyle Larson wins the Coca-Cola 600. Rick Hendrick, career win 269. The irony of returning the number 5 to Hendrick Motorsports this year, the number with which All-Star Racing, owned by Rick Hendrick, scored their first victory at Martinsville with Jeff Bodine.
It comes home second, Busch third, and then you got William Byron and Alec Bowman coming in fourth and fifth. I want to talk a little bit about the Fords not showing up lately. We'll do that, and then we'll come into the Indy 500 here, because it was just so good, dude. That race was so good. But let's start with the 600.
Okay.
So Kyle Larson, we've talked about this last year quite a bit, right? Yeah. And getting a start, and we talked about
where was he going to end up?
Yeah, and what were his opportunities like? Right, what was his potential if he got into a ride? Because what would we rate? I think last year we were rating his ride with Ganassi as a C plus, B minus team.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
And he ran strong, a lot of second places, which he's doing that again this year. But he goes to Hendrick, which everybody thought, okay, now let's see what this kid can do and see if he can put his money where his mouth is. And he's killing it.
He is.
He's fast.
I mean,
that team is starting to gel and put together some finishes for him. He goes second, first in the last 4 races. So how are you feeling? What's your thought from a driver's standpoint? Like what's his progression look like? I mean, is this what you expected coming from HMS? I mean, is it a new team? I mean, just like where do you overall feel from the beginning of the year from him?
Oh, well, I mean, rumors were flying halfway through last year, or when everything happened for him, right, when he got let go from Ganassi, let's say the fall, that this is where he was going to end up. And man, what an opportunity for him.
Yeah.
More than anything, he's come back from what happened. Let's just put that to the side. And he goes to this team, and for him, it was probably like, oh man, I've got to perform.
Yeah.
But I think we knew the talent was there for sure, that he's shown speed and everything that he's been in, right, from, let's just say, a dirt car.
Well,
and just anything he gets in, he's fast. He's been, in Ganassi's Rolex cars.
Yeah.
And
then his off season.
Yeah.
I mean, he was winning everything under the sun on dirt.
He was.
I mean,
and maybe that was good for him. Maybe, I mean, you kind of go through this as a driver that you've been, he raced a bunch last year, let's say, but let's say not as much pressure and just went and had fun. And maybe that's just, that can be good for you too.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get back to why you love the sport so much in the first place.
Yeah, to reset.
Yep, exactly. And I've kind of experienced that some with the go-karting with my kids a little bit. Not that I get burned out, but you find out what you truly love about the sport, and maybe that's for him. That was a good thing to kind of step back. He was in a contract year, I think, already, and just like, hey, I'm going to reset here, get some things figured out, and I think he went to the right team for sure. But I mean, just Mr. Hendrick as a person, and we've talked
as a mentor, and yes,
we've had other guests on our podcast, Bob Ingram, for example, that knows Mr. H really well, and I'd say their mentality, as far as their mindset, knowing Bob enough, Mr. Ingram, that Mr. H is probably about the same way. I've never personally met him, but I can just see his mannerisms through the TV and stuff on how he acts, and I think that was a good place for Kyle to go, just as far as the mentorship that he gets. I mean, look at the drivers what he's had through there with Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, and now he can kind of take him under his wing a little bit too. And I think Larson he's your championship contender. And
I totally agree.
We talked about that earlier before he kind of went on this winning streak a little bit, that before he even got the win, like, hey, you need to – he's going to be competitive this year.
Yeah, and it was just a matter of time before that team – gave him the finish that he needed, right? I mean, he come up short. I'm sure some of that was, him from a driving standpoint, but once they started to gel, he's so strong. The mile and a halves, I think, are his bread and butter anyway, but he's just so fast. And the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit was, the number 5 team has never really shown strength. That number. Yeah. So I was a little worried about that and I figured that was the number they'd put him in. So I was a little concerned about that, but wow, man, I'm really impressed by what this team is doing.
No, and I think it's great for them, because when you go back to Rick's, Mr. H's start in the sport, it was with the 5 car.
Yeah.
And that was Ricky, his late son ran that number also. And the 5 car and the 25 that it was at one time when Schrader drove it for a long time. And it didn't always perform like the other teams, let's say. And it's really cool to kind of see it come back. And I mean, he's kicking butt right now with it. And
I love it. I thought that number was great. I guess just because we didn't see it a ton lately, especially, the last
where it wasn't around
decade,
and they, it was reformed as, I can't remember now. I'm kind of losing my train of thought which number it was even before the 5, if it was 25 or the 88, or maybe it was 88 or something.
Well, I thought Junior brought the 88 over, but
he did.
I think it was a 25.
Yeah, it was 25, and then the 5 kind of went away.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's great to see, and you look at the 600. It was there was a stat that was thrown up there kind of late in the race when probably 50 to go, that even on the laps led for the winner, like he was still like 4 or 5 down. Like Truex and like some of these guys have just dominated. Their longest race in some regard has been dominated by 1 car.
Yeah, and Truex has the record with 392 of
400
laps.
I mean, just
ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, crazy when they popped that number up.
Yeah, I think he was 5th on that list.
5th on that list.
Yeah, and he led 334 laps.
Yeah, and he dominated that week, and Hendrick did as a group.
Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, Kyle sneaks in there, and man, he was racing him hard. That was cool to see at the end. Yeah, he was getting after it with William Byron, and trying to at least break that up a little bit. He couldn't kind of reel Chase in, but man, he was driving the wheels off his Toyota there.
And his post race I thought was great too, because you could tell he was having fun. And he was. I think he even said it. I had to split up the Hendrick cars. I couldn't let him go 1, 2, 3, 4 again. Whatever. So I think he enjoyed it, and they raced clean. Everything. Yeah. I mean, it was just a really good race. Not too much came of it, but let's talk a little bit about Chevy's kind of reemergence this year. Where do you think that's coming from?
I think they came out with a new car last year. I think the new front end, I think on the Camaro, and it takes some time. Yeah. I mean, when you get a new car and the testing that they couldn't do and the practices that they couldn't do as we went into COVID, through last season, that now I think they've got some notes on this body, and now that they're going to places, second or third time around, they're starting to pick up on it. And I think they did have a practice.
Yeah, they did.
At Charlotte. So I think that's helping them for sure. And now you kind of see Hendrick is emerging gosh, they went 1, 2, 3, 4, and now they almost did it again.
Yeah.
That's to do that as an organization, that's so difficult.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to have the run that they had, I guess it was Dover where they did that. I can't put that in words. Coming from, the organizations I'm with, they're great. But to try to do that and put the 4 cars in the top 4, I mean, it is hard to do at any level in motorsports. And to see that done, that's a testimony to their team and how they're working together. And that starts at the top with Mr. H and the way he's doing things. And they're going to be tough, I mean, I think Larson, he's a shoe-in all the way to the championship 4. Now, we can see things can change, and so I'm not shoeing in the other 3 yet because we can see what happened with Harvick and Hamlin last year. But I think Larson's they're going to be so dominant that I think you're going to see him at Phoenix in the championship 4 no matter what. I think
Chase has the best shot of the other 3.
Yeah.
Just because he's been there and done that, So he's familiar with the pressure and what it takes to make it through the chase as far as, and then win the championship. So.
Well, and having to go win a race to get in even, because he wasn't going to point his way in and he had to go win, to make it even there. So I think for sure that's, he can definitely get there. We already know that.
Well, and the other significant thing this weekend with Hendrick is, they get the all-time win list, tops that at 269?
Yeah, passes Petty.
Yeah, for 269 wins. I thought it was cool that it was Larson that gave
the
him
5
the win.
car.
Yeah. A lot of significance there this weekend. A lot of fun. Fords backing up, dude. It's rough. I think the top Ford was Buescher in 7th?
He was running good.
Yeah, he was. 8th. He finishes 8th. But you got Harvick in 10th, Keselowski in 11th. Blaney in 13th and Logano in 17th. I mean, it's been a struggle this year across, Stewart Haas, Penske.
Penske's kind of been the only one who's sort of running pretty good, but I mean, now you're seeing the emergence of Roush again,
right?
Which I think is great to see. And, they're kind of making headlines anyways with Keselowski, potentially going there. I mean, he's in a contract year with Penske. Is he going to get some ownership and go to Roush Fenway? So it's good to see Roush back at the top where I think they should be. But, the Fords have definitely struggled here with pace. And it's, is it the downforce that they're not getting on the front of the car?
Because when they get back in traffic,
they just can't move. Because this was the 550 package too. So this is the big spoiler, the tapered spacer and stuff. So it kind of they're almost flat out basically the whole time. When they run the lower downforce settings, are they able to be, a contender? This package is tough though because it's just creating such a big wake on these 1.5 miles, and maybe it's just the front end. They just don't have the grip that the Chevy's able to get right now with the downforce. So that's why I'm looking forward, as we talk about Charlotte, I'm looking forward to the new car as it comes, because I think hopefully it's going to help with some of this. And then one thing about Charlotte too, it was cool just to see the fans back. I mean, they've been really back, cool. But it's like this weekend, it was kind of like in both races, because we're going to get into the 500, but it was so cool just to sit on TV, just to watch, everything, and the fans be there. And
I've said that all along, even to watch it on TV. And I think Harvick was the first one to mention it when he had his first win.
Oh, it was crazy.
When there was no fans there. He's like, this is insanely weird, right?
Yeah.
And I've said that even, watching the little bit of other sporting events, whether it's the NBA, hockey, whatever, it just seems like there's so much electricity that comes from the crowd. Even as a driver, maybe you can speak to this too. When there's a crowd there and you're leading, you got to feel the energy, because I know I've been to a couple of hockey games here lately with the Preds when it was very, very limited numbers of people in there. It was so bizarre, dude. There was no energy in the arena, and I know those guys have to feel that.
Yeah, I mean, even though you're in the car, you just feel that buzz even before the race, more than anything, because obviously we're not hearing the fans. I mean, sometimes you can, like when Junior gets the lead,
Right.
they do hear it, or he hears it. But you feel that energy,
Yeah.
and that's gone. I mean, that's even like for us because we don't have the fan walk right now.
Yeah.
I think that's coming back as we kind of come down the road as we go to Watkins Glen here in a few weeks. But I see that that's coming back and the buzz in the air and stuff. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, and that was cool to see that it's starting to happen.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of fans are there. I can't remember the number that they had at Charlotte.
I don't know what they had at Charlotte. I know Indy was a big crowd.
Yeah, Indy's
and
Indy.
it wasn't capacity either.
No, it
but
could have been
was,
a lot more, but
yeah.
still way more than they had last year, which they had none.
Oh, yeah.
You know, them running around that place with nobody in there, and, you know, NASCAR was doing that too, and it's like, it's just strange.
Yeah, it's weird. It's from a fan perspective, it just doesn't feel the same. I was so into this weekend. I mean, it's a bit, like you said, it's a big weekend anyway, right? It's probably my favorite race weekend of the year, but you know, last year they didn't have the Indy 500 on
That was in August.
Memorial Day weekend,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, you're right, man. It was so good to see fans.
Yeah, and I can't remember, if they even had the 600 on Memorial Day.
I don't remember.
I don't either. I know what I was, well, we're going to talk racing. I was laid up with my finger.
Is that when you
my
did-
COVID,
oh,
I did it during this
Is that when you had
period.
the skid loader? And
Yeah. So that's what I was laid up in bed. But
I remember I got the text message from your wife saying, Owen's in the hospital. I'm like, wait, what?
yeah. So that was my COVID injury. But on to so anything on the 600 that you want to?
No, I mean, we're good there. It just is, I'm happy for HMS, super stoked for Kyle Larson because I've always been a fan. I just thought he needed better equipment. And the race was good. It was a good race. There was fans there, and just a lot to be excited about, this weekend. And as racing starts to come back, because, I mean, you sat out everything last year except for one race, which we did a lot of cool stuff here on the podcast, but man, it is fun to go back to the track.
Yeah.
And now that there's going to be fans there, I'm super excited about the second half of this year.
Yeah, and it's like I can't wait because now they've got access. IMSA WeatherTech is in Detroit this weekend along with IndyCar. I'm pretty sure that's where they are.
It is.
And I think they've opened up the paddock to the fans. And so I think that's just missing. Like we for us, the Super Bowl is Daytona, obviously, to start the year off for us at the Rolex 24, and we did both big events there. And the fans don't have access to the garage or, the fan walk, but, the pre-grid. And so you're talking about the energy. It was different this year. Even though the fans were there and you guys were able to be there, it wasn't like it normally is.
Yeah, and it was different for me as well. The infield part of it was pretty cool. The social, I mean, it was just different, right? You have to understand what was going on. But sitting in the stands, there was like nobody there. I mean, there were 50 feet on any side of you, and there's nobody sitting there. So that part of it, I wasn't digging that for Daytona. It kind of took away from me, from my experience there. But it was neat to be on the infield and have people there. So I was glad just to be there.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk a little bit about the Indy 500 because that was jacked.
That's a cool place.
Yeah.
You've been there, and
oh yeah, we've got another agent on our team that her father-in-law is a business owner in Indy, whatever, and does the entire weekend and does it in a very, very big way. And I was texting her on Sunday morning because they're like part of the motorcade.
Yeah,
that goes over the track.
Yeah.
And so I was texting her. I'm like, you have got to be like through the roof. And she's like, even at 5, the electricity, 5:30 in the morning,
it's crazy.
The electricity was through the roof. And then I came in to watch the start of the race. I was out, just doing my normal honeydew stuff, whatever. Came in to watch the start of the race, and it was unbelievable. I could feel it. I wish I would have been there. It would have been so cool to be there.
Yeah, this would have been a neat year to go. And I thought about it because something popped up on our Facebook page, real estate wise.
Yeah, I saw
about 40
that.
I was like, can I get my boys together? And like, we had just raced Saturday, so it was like, man, I don't know if I can grab them and take off up there. But I've been there for Carve Day, for different days, and for the race, and like that place is. If you've never been there, you need to go to the race, number one. I mean,
Totally
just
agree.
going there, it's like it's special, and I've been fortunate enough to race there in Grand Am with NASCAR years ago, thankfully, because that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
When I was doing open wheel when I was a long time ago, the Indy 500, that's what I wanted to go do. And so that place, you walk in there, it's like going to Fenway Park, any of these special baseball or stadiums that you've heard about. I mean, you just I'm getting chills just talking about it in some regards, that you just get the history that's happened there at that place, and to see the fans back in the way that they are. I mean, they were ready to go, and it still wasn't. It was like half capacity of what that place can take.
But it was still electric, man. It was was cool.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being there. Everybody was just going nuts. So let's talk a little bit about youth versus experience.
That was awesome to see.
Dude, that part of the race I thought was really cool. Scott Dixon sits on the pole, which wasn't unexpected because he's always fast there, right? And then you got Will Power barely making the field. I mean, second to last, 32nd or whatever. And he smacks the wall and keeps. No, so let's talk about that for 1 second.
Okay.
So he hits the wall on his qualifying lap, and then just like balls to the wall and finishes out. How gnarly is that from a driver's standpoint?
That shows you right there what Indy means.
Right.
That, I mean, end up being, it was a graze, but say, hey, it's a graze at 230 miles an hour. And you've got to go down to turn 3 and sail it in there and hope you didn't hurt it too bad.
Exactly. Hoping you didn't stress anything that maybe could break
that the spotter can't see for you.
Yeah.
And that your crew can't see. But that's what Indy means, number one. And he knew he had to, get it done.
Yeah.
I kind of figured like once he put 4 laps together that he would probably be in. It's not the other 2 cars that were trying to get in, but they just hadn't shown the speed.
Right.
And granted, Will was in the position he was, but he had to finish that lap.
Yeah.
Number one, he couldn't bail out of it because maybe say something was compromised. Well, then he'd have to go do another 4-lap run. Yep. And so he needed to finish that because that was the last, that was on his 4th lap. So that's just courage, man, and ballsy.
So good.
But that describes Indy on what Indy means.
And that's also
to anybody there.
His experience, right?
And his experience for sure.
He's been there enough. And like you said, he knows what this means, and just that's it, man. It's risk versus reward, and the reward far outweighed that risk.
Yeah, and he got in, and then Dixon gets the pole, and we go to the race weekend, and I mean Dixon, it was
well, he loses it in a pit stop.
Yeah, because so the caution that comes out is for a pit lane road accident, and man, it's just like they were right there on their fuel
mileage.
Yeah, and they had to come in, and the thing just won't. I mean, the engines get hot, and they just don't want to refire at times.
I hated that when he was sitting there. I was like, he's done.
Hated
that moment for him.
I did, but it was interesting to see because and we're going to get to the whole race here, but let's just focus on him for a second. They go, and Rossi has the same deal.
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting that I think that Rossi was like, hey, let's try to drive our way back to the front. Because he came up at one point and pointed to him and said, hey, let's go to the front. And Dixon was just in front of him when all that kind of happened and they got down a lap. Rossi, I think, tried to do that. If you notice, Dixon, I think he tried and then realized we're not going to be able to drive through the field and get back to the front. Then they started saving fuel and saving fuel and saving fuel and saving fuel. And then that's how they got back.
Yeah, they basically bought themselves a pit stop.
Yeah, and Rossi never did.
Yeah.
And Rossi stayed a lap down the rest of the race. And so it's just interesting how those 2 cars took
a strategy.
Yeah, I think Dixon did take that approach initially, and then I think they pulled out of that and just said, there's no way, we're not going to be able to drive, and there was not enough cautions in the first place at the right time for them to be able to get that lap back. And so Mike Hull pulls it out, and I mean, I thought he was going to be, I thought he was going to be closer at the end. When they made their last pit stop, I thought he'd be closer to the front. I mean, he was. He ended up like 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
But I thought he's actually going to be leading the race. And I guess he just had to run too slow during that middle stint for too many laps to make that work. But
because what he ended up finishing, he was down
No, he ended up hitting the top 5.
Oh, was he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
there at the end, he was in
that.
he wasn't in the mix for the lead, but you could see him in the background.
Yeah.
So he's 5th or 6th.
I knew he came out after that, after those pit stops cycled through, and he was still back further than what he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And he was on old tires, and, there was no way he was probably going to win that race.
No, but I thought they did the right thing that they need to do to put him back in position.
Yeah. He bought some points. All kinds of, there was a lot of goodness that came out of that strategy.
No, it did, yeah, because it is a points race for him, even though it's their biggest race of the year, for sure. But why don't we take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and kind of recap the rest of the 500 here, and we'll be right back with you guys. All right, guys, and we're back to finish up our Indy 500 recap. Donovan, I know we were just chatting about Scott Dixon there on how he sort of made all this work, but man, what a race.
Yeah.
All the way to the end.
It was the last 52, 53 laps, whatever it was, outstanding. I was glued to it the entire time. So I want to let's talk a little bit about again. I want to go back to this youth versus experience, because there was the top 10. If you look at the top 10, there was a pretty good mix there of younger guys and this old guard. We'll say Tony Kanaan. Finishes
48 or he's
10th or whatever, and
he's 46 or something. He's up there.
Yeah.
So
well, Helio wins it, right?
At 46. Yeah.
But he was going toe to toe with Palau the last 50 laps. They were right there. It was the top 3.
Yeah.
They pretty much had him covered.
It did. Yeah. It was the middle race, and maybe I don't know if you saw it, like Connor Daly, because I watched the whole thing start to finish, and that Connor Daly I think he led the most laps of the day, which was cool to see. First Indiana-born guy that has led in a long time, and I think he had the car to kind of. He got the track position on that first caution, and that worked out for him, and he's able to stay at the front. Then it all kind of went haywire a little bit when Graham Rahal smacked the wall because his left rear came off, and just a mistake on pit road from what I know. I haven't heard anything else, what happened there. But I hate it. Graham was putting himself in position as far as saving fuel, because he was hanging around with the lead pack to definitely kind of be, as you started to see the strategy on who the things, there was only like 2 cautions.
Right.
Or something. It was crazy. And like you're going on these long green runs.
Well, and it was the fastest Indy 500 in history.
And so you kind of saw how the race was playing out. And so Graham, they were saving fuel to, they're back time in the race like you would in any event, and they knew where they were going to end up, and then that caution kind of resets everything, and then Pelot gets to the front and another Ganassi car, and then Hilo was just there. He'd been in position all day long, and it was really neat to watch that he was trying to size him up and just see what he could do. He got the lead, but then Alex seemed like he could get the lead back. Quick.
So that's what I wanted to get to, was like those last 13 laps, 12 laps, whatever.
Yeah.
It almost seemed to me like Helio was saying, okay, I'm going to take the lead and see where he's beating me.
Yeah.
Right. And then he could take the lead back. So it really came down to this. And this is, I think, the experience versus youth, where Helio said, okay, I know how I can win it. And they were coming up on lap traffic too.
Yep.
But if you just watch the way he did it, because they played cat and mouse back and forth for those every 2 laps they were switching the lead.
Yeah, he would get the lead, but he could lead 2 laps, and then Alex would get a huge run on him and drive right by him.
Coming down off of 4.
Yep.
And he would just draft him down the front stretch and get past him again.
And then I think, Castroneves sat behind him for a few laps, because I went to his in car and he was rolling out of it, or you could see his RPMs on the the steering wheel, that he was either lifting or shifting, whatever he was doing. He wasn't taking the runs. He was getting the run, but then he was able to kind of keep, I think it was Ed Carpenter that was behind him. So it wasn't like Ed was kind of closing the gap on him. So Hilo could kind of like draft up and then just roll out of it and not lose any track position, and no threat from behind really at that time, but didn't have to show his card completely. Yeah, he got the lead, there when we kind of went to that restart, but then I think he was content to ride for a little bit. And then I don't know if it's his spotter. He didn't say it in an interview, but your spotter's got to be telling you, hey, you're coming up on traffic. And, like, you can see the timing on how that's going to start to work. Hey, you're going to catch it 2 to go. Yeah. Well, 2 to go, and he timed it perfectly.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So, I mean, it's I don't know who.
And he came around the outside, too. And
yeah, he got the run because Alex blocked the inside going down the front straightaway. But his spotter, that had been a question maybe they talked about in the press conference that, hey, you're going to catch this traffic.
Yeah.
And he knew his car was good in traffic from what he said. And the traffic actually helped him. In one way, I thought it was going to get ready to hurt him. But what it allowed him to do is he was getting the tow from the other cars.
Right.
So Alex couldn't get that run.
He didn't have the run, yeah.
Because it seemed like the runs would come. I mean, he was in – I think he runs a I don't know if they're both Honda motors. I can't remember. Yeah. So, but it seemed like his car, he could draft up on him. Maybe that was on purpose, to some degree, that he was making it easy for him to kind of roll by him. But once he made that pass with 2 to go, and then he caught the traffic, and there were other Honda cars in front of him because they were Andretti cars in front of him.
Yeah, I think Hunter Ray was right.
It was Hunter Ray, and I didn't know if he was going to move out of the way, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really going to hurt him. But then it actually helped him, I think, because he's able to draft him, and then Plo couldn't get the run on him at that point. And
I knew when they went through 3 into 4, he wasn't going to catch him. Yeah,
no, because he had the draft off front Hunter Ray's car.
Yep.
And so he wasn't going to get this huge run.
Wise, it was perfectly spaced. It couldn't have worked out better for him.
Yeah. So I mean, what a cool thing, because he's run 2 races this year.
Yeah.
Talking about Castroneves, ran the Rolex 24 for Wayne Taylor and Acura, wins.
Yeah.
Goes to Indy 500, drives for Michael Shank, Michael Shank, in a Honda, and wins. And we've talked about, for him, the significance it is that he's a 4-time winner. Yeah. That's cool to see because we haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, would they say 30 years or so?
I think I was there. It was Mears the last time. I think I was actually at that race. I think it was 91 when that happened, because that's when Foyt was up on the front row and Mears. Maybe Mears qualified on pole, but I was there for that. And, what it is for Castroneves, but what it is for Michael Shank.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, I mean, I've known Michael for 25 plus years. He started as a driver.
Yep. I read a little bit of his bio after the win when you and I were texting. Yeah.
I mean, started in club racing and Sports 2000s, and, just worked his way up. He lives in the Columbus, Ohio area, and that's where his shop is. And, to kind of see where when he made the jump to IndyCar, I knew the 500. I've talked to Mike on other shows that this is where he wanted to be. I mean, he loves sports cars, and he needed that to work also. But being from Columbus, he's close to Indy, like we are in this kind of central area of the United States. And it's like he wanted to be at Indianapolis. And to see him make that leap in 17 to, with Jack Harvey and some support there from SiriusXM radio to kind of make this happen for him. They did a limited schedule at the beginning, this whole run, and now they're full-time with the Jack Harvey car. And, I think Mike talked about it, like, do we go for the youth or the experience in this 06 car? And they went the route of the experience. And I love it as a driver because I'm at that point now too. It's a lot of these teams are going the experience route instead of the sort of the youth movement that we've had, it seems like, the last couple of years. Which is neat to see. So I'm so happy for Mike. There's a picture, and maybe we'll put it on here, that Mike is like he's up on pit wall as Helo's coming down after the checkered flag, and he's just like got his hands up in the air, just going nuts.
And then they run out and they climb the fence, the whole Spider-Man thing, whatever. It was just a great race. I loved the entire weekend. I just thought it was great. We'll get together with Ken and do a Trans Am.
Yeah. Trans Am was at Lime Rock this weekend, and so we're not going to cover that right now. We'll do that with Ken on a separate episode. But that's always a Memorial Day classic up there at Lime Rock for the Trans Am, and SVRA. Vintage Group was up there, and IGT was up there. Ted was up there running the Porsche with the IGT sanctioning body. So just hope everybody had a great Memorial Day. This was really cool because I think this was a to come back post-COVID for Castroneves to get his 4th win.
Yeah.
And then for a team that started basically from nothing that he drove for, because I think he has a great relationship with everybody in the paddock, but obviously Penske went, Scott, McLaughlin is in that car that he was in. That it's so cool. I mean, just to see, he's not done.
Oh, no.
And now I think they're going to do 6 more races this year, and, he wants to be back, doing more next year. And then I'm super happy for Michael Shank to get this win, because what
a way to win it.
Yeah,
for
his
him.
first win, first IndyCar win.
Yeah.
And they've run well, and they've run well this year with Jack and stuff. But I think it was great for Mike to go this route with the experienced guy, because I think Castroneves brought some stuff to the team that helped actually Jack Harvey at the same time. Because I think Castroneves, he's been, even though he hasn't been driving until this race, he's been at every race,
right,
or every test they've been. So he's part of that team, and that rubs off on you.
Yeah,
he brings that experience from being at Penske for so long, and the team starts to learn, different things. And not that they weren't doing anything wrong, but there's just some ways.
No, but it's the
to do
subtleties,
it.
right? It's
the small details that matter.
Yeah, it's this. What's the saying? Small hinges swing big doors, right?
Yeah.
It's you start to get to the minutia, and that's where you start to see those gains. It's all about the details.
So and I'll have to ask Mike that, and maybe we're going to try to get Mike on here at some point. And but I think that was a huge turning point for this team. I think that's come through, the 60 car that's running Jack Harvey. And one of the coolest things I saw, and we'll wrap it up here shortly, is that when Will Power came over to congratulate him, did you see this?
Yeah.
And he's like looking at the leaderboard, like, who's in that 06 car? Like, who's that? Like, oh yeah,
I know who that is.
Yeah.
No, I thought the celebration after the fact was super cool for Castroneves and just everybody. It kind of reminded me a little bit of when Earnhardt won the 500 Daytona, where everybody just came out and was congratulating him, and well deserved congratulations on his 4th win. And I think Simon Pagenaud came up and he was like, "Dude, I was catching you." He was fast.
He was closing in.
Yeah.
Just ran out of laps. He was fast too. And I think that's what that traffic kind of caused, slowed his run down too, because they obviously the turbulence that goes on with those cars, they get a little aero tight. And then, Castroneves changed his line a little bit too. He started running lower to kind of prevent that from, Alex getting a run on him also at the same time. So, because he runs a little bit higher if you watch him. And so Alex able to kind of get that left wing, in some good air. And so, but he had to change his line the last couple laps to kind of prevent that too. But yeah, just what a cool weekend. And I hope everybody had fun watching this race and the 600 and probably out in the boat on Monday. I'm sure a lot of people.
Yeah. And, remembering our fallen heroes, which is, what it's all about. So there were some great stories that came out of NASCAR. Kurt Busch and the deal with Dunham that he had on his car was a really cool thing. I saw that yesterday. A lot of good stuff, brother. I hope it's a good omen for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
Getting fans back in. I've got plans to be at a lot of races with you and hopefully get some other stuff in as well. I'm, NASCAR coming to Nashville, Indy coming to Nashville. We got a lot of good stuff going on, man. I'm glad to see this is the direction we want it to go. For motorsports in general.
It's on an upswing for sure. So everybody check us out on our social media pages at Facebook, at DrivinLife, on our YouTube channel, obviously. And then we got to think, you got a new shirt here. Maybe you can grab that, Donovan, and hold that up towards you're wearing it. But that's you can get that at Franklin Road Apparel. We'll also do our Trans Am update is a separate YouTube broadcast. We'll do that with Ken Twaits. Yeah. That'll be posted also, but you can get some really cool gear at Franklin Road Apparel. You went there today too.
I did. Yeah, I drove. I had a little bit of time, so I just drove into Franklin and went by the store. Super cool place.
Yeah.
I got a barbershop in the back of it. I walked in. They asked me if I wanted anything to drink. I'm like,
yeah, they'll serve you a drink there.
Hang out here for a little while.
Yeah. So, check them out. Yeah, if you can't come down to Franklin, Tennessee, franklinroadapparel.com is obviously where they are. And you can find us at drivinlife.com. And look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care of each other, love each other, and we'll see you soon.